You're live.
I'm live, Joe.
Yeah, you're live.
What is it I say all the time? Ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome to the Daily
welcome to
Summa.
the. No, it's something different. It's
Summa
welcome
Scholars,
Summa
right?
Scholars to the Daily Summa. Today's Wednesday, February 26th, 7th week of Ordinary Time. Fast approaching when I will be saying, welcome Summa Scholars, blah, blah, blah. It's the first day of Lent. We're in the season of Lent. That's coming very soon. Trying to get psyched, trying to get ready. How are you doing this morning, Joseph?
Pretty good. Yeah. The first 3 minutes of waking up were absolutely horrific in that I wanted to do nothing more than just crawl back into bed and ignore any responsibility I had.
Mm-hmm.
I decided not to do that instead, but I really wanted to.
You know what I did this morning that I normally don't do? I hit the snooze button.
Ooh.
I normally don't do that, but it's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. Yeah, I actually hit it twice, but everything still flowed very nicely this morning. Still got to do Vespers, still got to do Lauds. It was just that they came really close together. And normally between between vigils, prayer, and lauds, I study the Summa again, review it again. And this morning I did not. This is the this is the first morning I have not reviewed my Summa. So let's see if it shows. You know, I shouldn't have said anything because now you're going to be looking for it.
Yeah.
Not that you would ever look at me
No,
with
that's
a
exactly
critical
what I'm
eye.
going to do.
Not that you would ever look at me with a critical eye to try to pick apart any failings of mine.
Yeah, no,
That's
my
just
whole goal
not
is to
your.
tear you down, not so I
That's
can
not
build
your
you back
style.
up, but because it's fun.
Yeah, well put. Not to build you back up like the army, but just because it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
To watch you languish. When are you coming here? When will the people be able to not know any difference because you'll just be in the next room or something and it won't matter to them? But when will you be? It'll matter to me. When are you coming?
I'm not sure yet. Right now, there's only one task that necessitates me showing up, and that doesn't. I'm my motivation to go for that one task is not.
You're
large.
not trying to weasel out of this thing, are you? Do you know about the hot tub?
Yeah, I do know about the hot tub. That's true.
Do you know about the really good coffee down in that one city that, you know? Okay. So anyway,
True.
seems like there was something else. I did have a story, and I had a joke from one of our favorite Gomorrah teachers. He told a joke that got him in trouble. It was a woman joke.
Oh, I'm sure I'll like it.
See, you're not allowed to tell jokes about things and people anymore. we're so liberated from the oppression of Christianity that we can't joke about anything anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. But it started. The joke started with him talking about. He was reading from Masechta Sanhedrin, and the rabbi said, Hazal said that, why did God create wine? That was the question. Why did God create wine? Because they had gone through things previously that it causes trouble, that it caused trouble with Noah. Noah got drunk. It caused trouble with Lot.
Right.
And this has caused trouble throughout the centuries. And they also say that they happen to have a fruit plate in front of them that somebody had generously donated to their morning shir. So they had this big, beautiful fruit plate with like stuff carved in the fruit and carved in the apple, the symbol of their, I don't want to say the name of it, but the symbol of their thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was really cool. And he holds up the apple. He goes, what fruit did Adam and Eve eat in the garden? According to Hazal, according to the rabbis. And then he holds up the apple and he goes, who says it was this? Meaning which rabbi? And one of the guys yells out, the Christians. Say it's an apple. They have no. I don't think they have any tradition that it was an apple. I don't know where that came from, but that's certainly a Christian thing. Anyway, I don't want to go through all of it. There's certain species. There's fruit. There's fruit that's only grown in Israel. There's um, figs and dates and grapes and this. And the question was, which fruit was it that Adam and Eve ate? And the final thing is, it was wine. It was grapes.
Mm.
And so, which is very interesting. I mean, you could go into, but that's for a nighttime class. But you could go into a little teaching on the first wine. You know, there's the evil snake in the garden, but there's also the Mashiach snake, the sacred snake that's in the tradition, and everything has its good and its evil side. And then you could talk about the evil wine and then the wine, blood of Christ. You can really go off on that one, but that's not where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to get to this woman joke. So we can laugh at Chava. So we can laugh at our mother Eve. And then I'll reverse it, and as I like to do, and make fun the other direction. Or at least rectify the fun to some extent, making fun of the women. So the answer, why did God create wine? The answer, Joe, is to comfort the sorrowing and the anxious, and to punish the evil men in this life, so they don't have to have as much punishment in the next. See the beauty of that? That it's just another way of saying how you handle things in this life. There's nothing evil. God has not created anything evil. Everything that has being, as we know from our Summa study, is good. That God is goodness and being ipsum esse, of his own essence, but he shares and we participate in his being, and being and goodness are one. So everything he has created is good. It is how we approach it and use it that turns it into evil. So the rabbis say God created wine to comfort the sorrowing and the anxious, and to punish the evil man in this life. It's a punishment, Joe, if you
But
don't
yeah, how
use it
does it
right.
punish? Yeah, that's my question.
Well, they become drunkards.
Okay.
I mean, there's a little punishment with the hangover, but it's a warning. It's a way to make you ponder what's being said, and then come to the realization, oh, it's a punishment. See, you can't think of God's punishment as outside.
Right.
That's a big problem. It's the same way that the atheists think of God, as one being among many. Like there's Zeus, there's Venus, and then there's this Yahweh character. But he is being itself. So his punishment is not him coming down from the outside. I mean, we speak of it in human terms in that way, but because you have to somehow get people's minds adequate to all these teachings. I mean, if you were to come and talk about this Summa stuff to people in ancient times before Abraham, it would be, before Aristotle, obviously, all that, like ancient tribal people who don't think in these kind of terms. Or perhaps they would. I'm reading G.K. Chesterton, and he was talking about the ancient tribes, and a lot of them have this idea of a single father God.
Right.
And his premise is that after the fall of Adam and Eve, that everyone knew there was one God, but it slowly became lost in the consciousness. And so people started attributing to God that which is visible, because their intellect had collapsed to that like an animal. So when they look up, next generation sees dad looking up, and he's looking up at the sun or something like that, and slowly man began to project his own emotions and desires and thoughts into godlike things, and we just projected ourselves up on the big screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see people do that now. People will start out with Christian tradition, right? Solid basis. Catholics do it too. I mean, and then you go through life a little bit, and all of a sudden you're like, you start going weird and pagan with it, and it comes back even today. Like it happens all the time.
Yeah, that's just part of the collapse of the intellect. And that's what we're struggling out of. When the scripture says, draw me out from the mighty waters, from the hands of alien foes, whose mouths are filled with lies and whose hands are raised in perjury. The mighty waters is always a symbol of the mass of people, the horde. Draw me out from the horde of people who are speaking what's false. Mouths are filled with lies, hands are raised in perjury, swearing to be something they're not. Draw me up out of that. So the wine, the drunkenness, is the falling within it. But then, of course, see, that's the thing. There's always a mirror, like in a way of looking at something. Because when the Holy Spirit takes hold of your life, what does it say in the book of Acts on Pentecost? These men are not drunk with wine as you suppose, being only the third hour. But this is the gift which was spoken to you by the prophet. And then, so wine is being intoxicated is always associated with the gift of the Holy Spirit. So anyway, both being true depends on how you do it, and the only way to do it is through penance, prayer, study, and some kind of ascetical practice. It's what's been said, handed down from the apostles. It's in the Didache. We fast on Wednesday and Friday. Didache is one of the first Christian documents we have. The Didache is the teaching of the 12 apostles. And they wrote down everything that they had heard from the apostles. And of course, it's all about prayer, study, meditating on the things of God, fasting. These are the things that the apostles gave us to do, and people would rather watch Netflix or something. I don't know. Anyway, so the sorrowing, the wine, and then the joke that the rabbi told was on Purim, you know, everyone drinks a lot on the Feast of Purim.
Right.
You remember that, Joe?
Yep.
Many people watching this won't know what I'm talking about, so don't even worry about it. That's also a nighttime teaching and a very beautiful one. But just think of it like Mardi Gras for the joke, okay? Everyone's drinking on Mardi Gras, which is coming up this coming Tuesday.
Yeah. You know, I think it's Wednesday.
I'll tell the joke in a second, but let's hear what you have to say.
No, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday. It's Fat Tuesday, dude.
Oh crap!
You know,
look at that. It's already here. But I was gonna say the one thing that we can do to make it more worth it for me to go up there is you can actually do one of these nighttime teachings that you've been talking a lot
I
of
thought about that.
trash about this whole time and haven't put up anything. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like,
well, it's not been. Hey, Joe. Dude, you are not helping me get a wife. If some wonderful young lady's watching this and she's like, oh, this guy doesn't get stuff done.
well, it can't be that easy. It's got to be some kind of difficult. So I'm just helping you with the difficulty part of it.
Oh yeah, it's not been difficult at all so far.
Don't worry about it.
My mother is watching this and cracking up, I'm sure. She's
Don't
been
worry,
with me
be
through
happy,
the whole twisted affair. The whole twisted affair. Okay, the joke is be careful driving out on the streets during Mardi Gras, because all the drunks out there and their wives are driving them around. So be careful. Be careful in Purim. Be careful in Purim, because all the men are out there drinking and drunk, and so their wives are driving them around.
That's good.
It's the most dangerous day to be driving.
That's a good one.
But to counteract that, I'll tell the story of Mother Gabriella when I was over there hanging out with the nuns, and there was like a 4-car procession going to the pancake breakfast that I told you about. 4 cars, because there was other people going and parents were going, and Craig had his vehicle, and Mother Gabriella was the lead car, and dude, she killed it. You know, it takes it's a certain skill to be the lead driver,
right?
like a lot, some people don't get it. Some people don't understand that you have 4 people behind you. If it's a yellow light, you need to just go ahead and stop.
Right. Yeah.
Or if you've been watching the green light now for 20 seconds, you know it's going to be turning and you've got 4 people behind you. They don't they don't catch that. And so
Right.
it becomes messed up. She knew exactly what to do. And there was a point where we turned a corner and she realized that someone had got stuck behind a light, like the very back person. Also, someone was leaving late, and so she was driving real slow down a country road. She realized it, and then they came up. Anyway, when I turned the corner, she had pulled over on the side of a bridge with her hazard lights on, and she waited for the others. Like she did it perfectly.
Yeah.
So that's a little counteraction to the women driving joke. We all know women are awesome. It's my favorite thing, Joe. I don't know if I
Yeah.
told you.
To counteract it the other way one more time, just because I think it's funny.
Of
We wa-
course.
we've been watching Transformers, not the old, but the movies from the 2000s. They really hold up. They're fantastic. And I noticed we watching the second movie, and the person who gets, I think, from my count, in the most actual car accidents in the movie, which is about, cars turning into robots and killing each other. The person who damages their own car the most is Megan Fox. And I thought that was very funny.
Mm. Has anyone ever mentioned that, or do you know?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's been mentioned. I don't know. People. Paul was telling me about this lady who I don't remember her name, so I can't cite it or anything, but who does film criticism on YouTube, and she like will specifically look at all the Transformers movies as like good kind of places to start with film criticism. So sure
Really?
people have mentioned it, yeah.
Huh. You're making me somewhat interested. I just don't care anything about Transformers. But if it's a good movie, like
It's like a good like I think on its surface it's a really good like dude movie. Like there's not a lot of deepness in it, but it's really cool.
Joe told a little man joke there, not even knowing it perhaps. It's a good dude
Probably.
movie. There's not a lot of deepness there.
I said dude specifically.
Yeah. It's a good dude movie. There's just no deepness. It's shallow. Dudes will get into it. We were laughing because when I'm at my mom's house, we haven't done this a lot recently, but a while back, we used to watch Hallmark movies. Have I ever told you the Hallmark movie story with me and mom?
No.
I wonder if we're ever going to get to Thomas. Can we just read this one today and not even say anything? How would that go
Up to
over
you,
if I
dude.
just started? Huh?
It's up to you, dude. I don't think you can
Would
help
you?
yourself, but
You're right. I can't. You're right. Um. So my mother wanted me to watch Hallmark movies with her years ago. I did not want to watch them because I was a film and am essentially a film snob. I don't just sit around wasting my time watching crap. You know what I mean? There's
mhm.
a limited amount of time on this earth. I've got the trivium and the quadrivium. I've got Thomas Aquinas to look after.
Mhm,
I've
mhm.
got reaction videos on people who've never heard Bob Dylan before. I can't be bothered with a bad, poorly acted, poorly written, poorly directed movie. But I was like, my mother really wants this. So, as a Saint Therese of Lisieux type sacrifice, I will watch the movie with my mother. Okay? That's the
Yep,
setup. So I
yep.
started watching these movies. And then what happened was I couldn't help it. My inner jerk came out and I just made fun of everything. Like lambasted this movie vocally out loud
Mm,
while we're watching it. And of course, now I'm bumming her voyage.
right.
You know what I mean? I'm not being a good galleon mate.
Mhm.
And so the Holy Spirit convicts me of this, Craig. You just, not really the best sacrifice if you're going to make it worse by making fun of everything your mother loves. So I'm like, okay, so I'll just sit and watch this thing. Oh, it was difficult. And then slowly, Joe, do you know what happened?
Did you start to enjoy it?
How'd you guess? You're so smart, Joe. You're really smart for a man.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is, I mean, this is a little live, real criticism, but sometimes you're a little snobby, about films, but some other things too, and it hurts your own enjoyment of it, and it's always amazed me. So to hear
Mm.
that you experience some of that is comforting. It's good.
Yeah, but I enjoy lambasting the movie, so
I know,
I
I
don't
know, I know.
know.
You enjoy that too. Yeah.
It would be hard. It would be difficult to gauge the enjoyment level, but you may be right. That's something. Well, thank you for taking me to counseling here on the live stream, Jim.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, probably
appreciate
wasn't the
it,
right
brother.
place for that, but I just did it anyway.
I think it was a good place for it. As they say, it makes good television.
Yes, sir.
um,
Well, while we're at it, here
so
are all the other flaws.
so I really can't pick flaws out on you, Joe, but that's probably because I have a log in my own eye and I don't judge my brother.
Mm,
Ooh,
that's a good one. My log is so
there you
big
go.
that I can just do that anyway.
Oh, your log is so big. We need to stop this
We need to
right now.
go on.
I'm gonna
Moving
go back to
on.
talking with my
Yeah.
mother and watching.
Yeah.
So I start to enjoy it, and then I'm getting excited about it, and so now I become like the hype man. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, when it's time to watch the movie, I'm like, Mom, let's go. We got to get into this thing. If we don't watch this movie, these two kids, we got to get these two crazy kids together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we don't watch this movie, this couple's never going to get together.
Mm-hmm.
It's our job to sit in here and watch this movie so that this couple gets together. And of course, I'm crying. So beautiful
Mm-hmm.
that they finally get together. And then, of course, I start showing my mother some real romantic comedies, like Hollywood ones that were actually good. I think she enjoyed 50 First Dates, where Drew Barrymore loses her memory and Adam Sandler has to help her.
Mm.
Beautiful movie. Okay, I think we've talked enough about movies. Let's talk
Yeah,
about.
we're almost 25 minutes in, so probably a good
Ooh,
idea to get moving.
sweet. I love it, dude. I wish I had something else on this paper to talk about right now, but I don't. So here we go, folks. Daily Summa, page 61. We're talking about question 7, article 2, whether anything but God can be essentially infinite. By the way, everybody who talks about these pages talk about how hard they are. We're getting into hard stuff. We're getting into magnitude and multitude. It's kind of mathy. It's math adjacent. So people talk about this as extremely difficult stuff. So whatever, get ready, people. Objection 3. Further, primary matter is something other than God, as was shown above, but primary matter is infinite. Therefore, something besides God can be infinite. This is the old argument, Aristotle, whether whether the universe was steady state, infinite or not. Okay. On the contrary, the infinite cannot have a beginning, as said in physics. But everything outside God is from God and from its first principle. Therefore, besides God, nothing can be infinite. Now, his argument from authority is just quoting the physics and saying that obviously it can't be infinite if it has a beginning. You can say that it's infinite the other direction, but that's not what infinite means. It's infinite one way. Infinite means it's infinite completely. All right. I answer that. The rational, you do get that, right, Joe? If it has a beginning, it's not
Right.
infinite back in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I answer that if it's infinite, there is no past. I answer that things other than God can be relatively infinite, but not absolutely infinite. For with regard to infinite, as applied to matter, it is manifest that everything actually existing possesses a form, and thus its matter is determined by form. That's kind of an important thing when he says actually existing. He says everything actually existing possesses a form. When we're talking about the forms, and you want to argue whether they're real, you're not, if you argue that, you're not understanding what Thomas is saying. In fact, Thomas is being so scientific and so rational that I think it gets a lot of people in this modern age, especially the actual skeptic, but even the Christian who's been, or the theist who's been washed in the materialist mindset and way of thinking, it can still be confusing, I think. He's saying everything that you see, anytime you see matter, it's always in a form. That's all he's saying. That's an important point. You never see matter just floating, like in potency.
Mhm.
Matter is always existing, possesses a form. You never see matter apart from a form. But because matter, considered as existing under some substantial form, remains in potentiality to many accidental forms, any form you see, this cup could be ground down and turned into another thing. Dallas the donkey can move from being donkey form and then going back into the earth. Coyote eats it. It turns into part coyote, part lovely spring flower. Matter remains in potentiality to many accidental forms. It could turn into other kinds of forms. That which is absolutely finite can be relatively infinite. For example, wood is finite according to its own form, but still it is relatively infinite inasmuch as it is in potentiality to an infinite number of shapes. This is what we said the other day. Fire is not infinite in itself. It's contained to a one definitive place and time, according to Aristotle's categories. But that flame can move in, we assume, an infinite number of ways and places. Places not like in the campsite, but ways and movements. I would wonder when we talk to the Lord, is like, is it actually infinite? He's like, no, it's 874 billion to the 23rd power. That's how many ways it can move. After that, it's over. But if we speak of the infinite in reference to form, it is manifest that those things, the forms of which are in matter, are absolutely finite and in no way infinite. It's very manifest that the fire in your campsite is not infinite, even though it could take an infinite number of forms, supposedly. If, however, any created forms are not received into matter, but are self-subsisting, as some think is the case with angels, these will be relatively infinite, inasmuch as such things of forms are not terminated, nor contracted by any matter. Let's discuss angels. They don't have matter, so their form or their substance is purely intellectual or angelic. So the question is, do they also, can they be infinite? But no, they have a beginning. But because a created form thus subsisting has being, and yet is not its own being, it follows that its being is received and contracted to a determinate nature. They receive their nature from God, and it's a determinate kind of nature. It's not all being, it's one particular kind. Gabriel, the angel, is an angel. He has an angel nature, but he's one particular kind of angel. Michael is another kind with another function. They're melachas. They have they're servants. They have tasks to perform. Messengers. Hence, it cannot be absolutely infinite. Okay, we got that. Now, let's reply to Larry's objection. It is against the nature of a made thing for its essence to be its existence. Okay, Larry. He's saying every created things aren't God because subsisting being is not a created being. He's responding to Larry. Hence, it is against the nature of a made thing to be absolutely infinite. Therefore, as God, although he has infinite power, cannot make a thing to be not made, for this would imply that two contradictories are true at the same time. So likewise, he cannot make anything to be absolutely infinite. Okay, that's somewhat confusing, but it's super important. In fact, it deserves a little star in my Summa. That is one of the germane and important points of Thomas, along with the fact that evil is not substantial but is emptiness, and along with his 5 ways. There are certain points that are very important, and this is one. But it's confusedly written here. Sorry, Thomas. He says just as God cannot make a thing and then have it not be made, what he's meaning is at the same time. Like, I think A cannot be non-A in the same way and under the same aspect. This is a common principle of philosophy that that a thing cannot be another thing in the same way and in the same under the same aspect. It's a law of non-contradiction. Something can't be and not be. Now, along with this, we need to extrapolate to the teaching about the nature of God and his not being a liar. The reason this is true is because God is emets, which is the Hebrew word for truth. God is pure emets. He is pure truth. He is also pure light. From him there is nothing hidden. He doesn't hide things from himself because he's pure act. So every possible potential is there before him and he sees it clearly. He sees all things and there is no shadow, there's nothing hidden. Because he cannot lie, God is all truth, he cannot lie. Therefore, all of the questions like, can God create a stone so heavy he can't lift? Can God make a black rock that's also white? The answer is no, because your premise is ridiculous. It involves lying. It's not that God lacks power. He has full power to be fully true. He's not a liar. Could God beat you in a... This is Rabbi Gottlieb's favorite example, and I like it too, because it involves chess. Can God beat you in chess if he only has the king and you have all the pieces? These are the kind of stupid questions skeptics ask because they're not seeing that no, God could not beat you, nor would he, because that's not reality, because that's not how the thing is set up. He is not a liar, and he is completely just. God works according to, and this is, the word justice is used in scripture many more times than the word love. Trying to get through your head that what love is. It's not a warm, fuzzy feeling I have for the thing that I want to do. It is justice. Once things line up in a just and proper way, then you have peace and you can purely and truly love them. So, yes, God cannot make anything to be absolutely infinite because he is. That would be saying, can God make another God just like him? The answer is no, because that God would be the infinite one God. The way the thing works is you're moving back very scientifically with cause and effect and induction, as we did in Thomas's 5 ways. And we're seeing that everything in this world moves from one state to another. And it's moved by a mover. That's how the natural material world works. So we're saying that because everything is moved by some mover, and that's the nature of matter, that there must be something, big fat question mark, we don't know what it is. That's what Aristotle's saying. That's what Thomas is also saying in this first part. We don't know what it is, but there must be something that doesn't live under those kind of laws and restrictions of cause and effect movement to hold the whole thing up and to keep it going as it is. Again, if you're just joining us, you would have to go back and listen to the 5 ways. And as I said, the 5 ways are not explained perfectly in that one page. You would have to watch over the time. But still, to come back to our page today and remember that no, God cannot lie. God is complete and pure truth. And once you see and go back to the fact that this beginning cause must be pure act, that's when you begin to realize pure act has no potency. Therefore, you can't have picking up a rock that it can't hold, because it is the holding, it is the rock, It is the undergirding being of all things. He is being himself, and he is pure light and pure truth. Okie doke. Reply to objection 2, which we read yesterday. Don't even remember what it is. Further, whatever has infinite power has an infinite essence. Oh, that's when he did the essence and power flip thing. Let's see what Thomas has to say. The fact that the power of the intellect extends itself in a way to infinite things is because the intellect is a form not in matter, but either wholly separated from matter, as with the angelic substances, with angels, or at least in intellectual power, which is not the act of any organ in the intellectual soul joined to a body. That's a drawn out way to say that intellect is not the same as body and doesn't work with forms and matter as we do. I mean, as bodies move. But the intellect is, as I said before, when you take 10 apples and you take 2 of them away and you show it to the kid, and 2 is 8, and then finally you just forget the apples and you say, what is 10 minus 3? And he says 7. His intellect is able to move out of material things and function apart from material. So the fact that the power of the intellect extends itself into infinite things does not mean that that intellect is infinite. It's just able to comprehend and contemplate infinite things, but that does not make the thing itself, the intellect itself, infinite. It had a beginning point, and it's all comes from God. Reply to objection 3. Primary matter does not exist by itself in nature, but is not actually being, but potentiality only. Hence, it is something concreted rather than created. I wonder if that's concreated rather than created. Nevertheless, primary matter, even as potentiality, is not absolutely infinite, but relatively, because its potentiality extends only to natural forms. The matter that we see turning into Dallas and then into a plant or whatever is still finite matter. It's still matter moving in and out of that particular form. It doesn't have the quality of infinitude, as does the first cause, which is that which is commonly referred to as God, who is holding up and sustaining all things. There was something else I was going to mention. Oh well, if it slipped my mind, it's not important. Oh, the turning of the page, Joe. Who shall we have this sponsored by today?
I think craigkinsey.locals.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to craigkinsey.locals.com. Kinsey, by the way. People always misspell it. When I'm in coffee shops and they ask your name because they're going to yell it out or something, I always say Kinsey because it amuses me. And they often misspell it. Craig, Craig, Kinsey, Kinsey. Yeah. Whether and
How do they misspell
actually,
it?
huh?
How do they misspell it?
Kensey.
Oh, they do Ken. I see.
Or they'll do Kinsy, or they'll do McKinsey. They throw a Mick in there, turn me Irish out of nowhere.
Gotcha.
Which, by the way, I had an awesome talk in a coffee shop yesterday about Ireland to an Irish guy. We reminisced over a trip to Ireland. I did my study abroad in Ireland. Did you know that, Joe?
Yep. Yeah,
I was there for a month, did study abroad in Ireland, and it was wonderful. My favorite part.
Beautiful Peterson.
That is where I got my Peterson, which I'll probably smoke after this. That's also where I have that wonderful story about getting first getting there. We were all so excited to be in Ireland. It was a study abroad, so there was a bunch of students from UST, University of St. Thomas. And we're in Limerick, where the book Angela's Ashes was written or about. And so anyway, we're there, but it's morning. We get there and it's morning time, but we're all jet lagged. It's different time, and we're all excited. So we go down to the guy at the front desk, and we ask where the local pub is, because we want to go have a Guinness. But we didn't kind of realize fully that it was like 10 in the morning or 9 in the morning. And he was like, well, but there is a, and he was amused at these American kids, up
Mm-hmm.
there. He goes, well, there is one that opens in about an hour. You can go out to that one. Well, where is it? Where is it? Yeah. He's like, just go down the street here. You walk out, you take a left. You're going to take a right on the first street you get to. You're going to go down 2 more streets and take a left on 43rd. And I started laughing profusely that the street was 43rd, but he said 43rd. You turn left on 43rd. How could you not know that you're saying farty turd, dude? Anyway, Article 3. This has been a banger of a Daily Summa as far as seriousness of this stuff.
Yeah, we're really on
I
point.
think I think the loftiness of the conversation is compelling me deeply to bring things more bass. It's so much treble. I got to bring some bass into this
Right,
thing.
right.
Article 3, whether an actually infinite magnitude can exist. Remember, multitude is how many of something. Magnitude is size, how big it is. Can you have an actually infinite magnitude? Something so big that it's infinite. Objection 1, Larry says, it seems that there can be something actually infinite in magnitude. No, there can't, Larry. For in mathematics, there is no error, since there is no lie in things abstract, as the philosopher says. What an interesting thing. I mean, we could sit and discuss that for a while, I guess, but it's somewhat beautiful. For in mathematics, there is no error, since there is no lie in things abstract, as says the philosopher. I mean, 2 plus 2 is 4. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
In the abstract world. Can't lie about that. You're getting closer to ascending the ladder up into he who is pure truth and light. But see how it works in Malchus? In this visible world, you have prestidigitation. You have magicians that lie all the time.
Mm.
I'm watching this spy movie with Lauren Bacall, Ingrid Bergman and Clark Gable. And they're doing a lot of lying shiftiness. They're making 2 plus 2 look like it's 7. And see how the visible world is Malchus, and that's the feminine aspect. And the more you ascend up, the more there is no lie, and there is just truth towards the masculine. See how that works, Joe?
Yeah. That makes sense. Speaks to me deeply.
Oh. I almost was going to say I hope people realize we're joking, but I hope they don't. I hope they don't, and they write very mad things in the comments and make the algorithm push it out further to everyone. And also so we can laugh at them because they have no sense of humor. Okay, but mathematics uses, and also there's a little truth to it, but mathematics uses the infinite in magnitude. Thus, the geometrician in his demonstration says, let this line be infinite. Therefore, it is not impossible for a thing to be infinite in magnitude. Because the geometry dude got out his chalkboard and went, okay, let this line be infinite. Larry's like, see, there can be infinite things. Good thinking, Larry. Ralph, objection 2. Further, what is not against the nature of anything can agree with it. Now, to be infinite is not against the nature of magnitude, but rather both the finite and the infinite seem to be properties of quantity. Therefore, it is not impossible for some magnitude to be infinite. This just sounds like Ralph is restating the answer. He's saying because magnitude can be infinite, I think it can be infinite.
Right.
Doesn't that what it sounds like to you? Doesn't that what it sounds like to you?
All right, Larry.
Doesn't that what it sounds like to you, Joe? Oh, Ralph.
I mean, it does sound kind of silly, but in some of even Thomas's replies, he uses that kind of logic. So it must, by using the term to define the term, it is kind of a irrational thing to do occasionally.
Now, to be infinite is not against the nature of magnitude, but rather both the finite and the infinite seem to be properties of quantity. I guess he's jumping to the math thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. But by saying something can be infinite, you're saying that infinite exists, and therefore that infinite has things about it, that make it have quantity.
Yeah, maybe. But I understand more with quantity, but we're talking about magnitude, Ralph. We're not talking about multitude. We're talking about,
Yeah.
well, how much of
But
something. Not how many, how much. That's
how much,
quantity.
right?
So he is talking about magnitude. Sorry, Ralph. Oh, gosh. How long is this page? A reply. Reply to, objection 3. Shimon. Further, magnitude is infinitely divisible. For the continuous is defined that which is infinitely divisible, as is clear from the physics. But contraries are concerned about one and the same thing. Since, therefore, addition is opposed to division and increase opposed to diminution, why can't you just say addition and subtraction, dude? Multiplication and division. It appears that magnitude can be increased to infinity. Therefore, it is possible for magnitude to be infinite. The old thing about taking, if you keep chopping this pencil in half, you can do it infinitely. Break it. Here's half the pencil. Break that half. Break that half. Break that half. Break that half. And I think maybe it was one of Zeno's paradoxes, which, by the way, that's why we were going to call this one of the guys on this boat Zeno. If we ever get down to a 6th objection, Joe,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to call that dude Zeno, because
Okay.
Zeno was one of the philosophers back in Greece that had his paradoxes, Zeno's paradoxes, and one of them was the ship of Sisyphus. That was one of Zeno's paradoxes, and the paradox
Uh,
runs like, have you heard this paradox?
yeah, it's the ship of Theseus, though, isn't it?
Is it Theseus?
I
What did I
thought
say?
so.
Sisyphus? Did I say
Yeah, that's the
Sisyphus?
boulder guy.
Yeah, you're right. It's Theseus, and I actually wrote a cartoon of that, using that as a part of a 4-panel, like Calvin and Hobbes type cartoon. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote it. I did a series of cartoons called Tramp Logic, in which I made characters of the Sideshow Tramps, the guys in our band, and I turned them into comic book characters. And then I made a series of, and they hung up in a museum in Houston for a while with blah 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 blah. But anyway, I did a this comic using that paradox. The paradox, for those who don't know, is, let's say you have a galleon, the ship of Theseus. You have this galleon, and let's say it needs repairs. And so you take 2 boards off of it and you replace it with 2 more boards. And then you take 2 more boards off of it, and later you replace it. And then finally, the captain's quarters have to be renovated. So you renovate and you use new boards for that. But it's shaped the same way. And it eventually, you keep doing this until none of the first boards are still in the galleon. They're all new pieces of wood, but it's still shaped in the same way. You've done it just bit by bit. The question is it the same ship? What do you think, Joe?
What do I think?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, because yes, I would think yes, because no individual part of the ship makes up a ship as a whole.
Interesting, dude. Yeah,
So I mean,
that's again one of the things we would discuss at Chesterton's with the pipe in, but long going discussion. And
you'd
it
call
also
it the
has.
same name. That matters, right? I mean, come on.
Are we nominalists now? If you call it a goat, but it's a horse, it turns into a horse.
Well, no, but that doesn't mean it means nothing.
Ooh, nicely done, Rabbi Murtagh. That's right. Just because you can't be a nominalist, you can't go the other direction and say now names mean nothing.
Right.
That's not true. Beautifully done, Joe. And then you've always been a smart feller. And then also this has to do with form and matter. The matter of the ship does not change its form. The form remains even though the matter's changed. Just like 7 years, your body, so they say, I've never had this fully confirmed, but so they say, after 7 years, all the molecules in your body are different. So that's sort of like the ship of Theseus, where
Right.
everything changes, but it remains the same form. Okay, and of course, the form of the ship comes from where? Where does the form come from, Joe? What's one of the places? I don't know.
Shoot. Dude, you're asking specific questions about the material. I'm bad at that.
Well, let's make it super simple. How does that ship get repaired? Is it magic?
No, a builder comes and
A builder,
yeah.
an efficient cause, a first cause and an efficient cause, and that cause has a telos in mind, a purpose, which is Thomas's fifth way. So we have the first, second, and fifth way involved in this ship, this galleon that has all the wood produced. You cannot have a form unless there's some builder who has in his intellect a design and a purpose, and then he acts it out into the form. Things are informed by intellects. And so you can realize, the more you meditate on it, that all the forms you see out here, the little horsey, this beautiful little flower that always looks like it's sitting on my hat when I watch the video back, looks like my hat has a flower sitting on it, this flower here. All those things are formed by an intellect, and they're held together for a purpose. And that thing we commonly refer to as God. For objection four, which is Reuben. Further, movement and time have quantity and continuity derived from the magnitude over which movement passes, as it says in the physics. But it is not against the nature of time and movement to be infinite, since every determinate, indivisible in time and circular movement is both a beginning and an end. Therefore, neither is it against nature of magnitude to be infinite, dividing the pencil in half. Going one direction, possibly going another, we'll see. We'll see what Thomas has to say about that. Oh, we're not going to see it until tomorrow. We have to wait all day till tomorrow to get Thomas's swank answer. But let's see what he says on the beginning of I Answer That. On the contrary, every body has a surface. Did you know that, Joe? Joe, are you still there?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yes, I do know that.
Did you know that every body has a surface?
That makes sense.
This thing is a body, this desk, this lectern, and it has a surface. This is a body, and also human bodies have a surface with the largest organ visible of the human body. The largest organ of the human body is the skin. Every body has a surface. I have tested that out before. Oh gosh. I answer that. It is one thing to be I answered that. It is one thing to be infinite. It is one thing to be infinite in essence, and another to be infinite in magnitude. That's a good point, Thomas. God is infinite in his essence. His very nature is infinite being. And it's another thing to be infinite in magnitude. But let's see where he's going with this. For, granted that a body exists infinite in magnitude as fire or air, yet this could not be infinite in essence, because its essence would be terminated in a species by its form and confined to individuality by matter. And so, assuming from these premises that no creature is infinite in essence, it still remains to inquire whether any creature can be infinite in magnitude. So he's taking a little pit stop and saying, I just want to remind you guys, there's a difference between essence of God and then the things he's created, which have to do with form and matter. Just remember, we're talking about two different realms here. Form and matter are the realm of what we call Malchus, or what Kabbalah would call Malchus, the visible world, the feminine aspect. Forms are making themselves visible through the accidents that we apprehend in the visible world. So just remember that. He sets that up, and now he's going to go and talk about magnitude per se. We must therefore observe that a body, which is a complete magnitude, can be considered in two ways. We can consider a body mathematically, which I rarely do, in respect to its quantity only, and naturally as regards its matter and form, which we do all the time. We're talking about the matter and form of something, but you can also break it down mathematically, which he had said previously is a logical distinction, which is slipping the surly bonds of earth and moving up the ladder of intellectual apprehension. And so there we go. We're leaving this world, but he's going to come and bring it back down into the material world and talk about how matter can't be infinite. And that's at the bottom of page 62. Now it is manifest that a natural body cannot be actually infinite. For every natural body, blah, blah, blah. That's tomorrow. Well, Joe, how do we do? I really enjoyed this
Pretty
one.
good.
I don't know if anything was taught necessarily, but I really enjoyed this one.
That was a good one, dude.
Yeah. You know, you have to keep in mind, that's what we designed. That was part of the design of this Daily Summa. You've got plenty of teachers who, as my professor, Dr. Rebard from the University of St. Thomas says, talk egghead philosophy. Got plenty of those. They're all over YouTube. Go watch those. If you want just the, and excuse me, objection one, Thomas says hylomorphia, blah, 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 blah. If you want that, there's tons of that. Go watch that. This ain't what we're doing on the Beaver Galleon. We are mixing up the masculine and the feminine and making sweet love in real life and having a real conversation in gritty, earthy, in the Quartier de Latran, the Latin Quarter, down on our bales of straw with Thomas and the boys in the seedy part of Paris. And we're talking about real life and real things. And we're just having catechesis and what, Joe?
Oh, yeah, and we got camaraderie, too. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, we got catechesis and camaraderie. All right, dude. Hey, that was a good one, dude.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is Straw. Go pray. We're done.